Welcome, dear devotees, to our Tuesday evening class on Bhagavad Gita, where we are reading from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the contents of the Bhagavad Gita summarized. That's the lesson. And today we're going to do text number 65. But before we go into text number 65, I wanted to ask you a few things. And that is, in the previous verses, we were talking about what happens if we contemplate on the objects of the senses. It's very important for us to understand that. So, if you'd like to tell us, take out your notepads and tell us what happens if you contemplate on the objects of the senses. You contemplate on the objects of the senses. And I'm looking up the chat over here to see what answers. Okay, Aruni Mataji says you begin to identify with it. And can you elaborate a little bit more on what does it mean to identify with something? In others, so you get that energy. Okay. Miseries will start. Says Garima Mataji. And where does the misery start? And those of us who are watching us on Facebook, which includes Dilip Bhai Patel Prabhu, Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, and Hemlata Mataji. Do you want to answer this question? Please feel free to type out your answers. There might be a delay in them reaching me, but nevertheless, I will read them. If not, instantly at the end of the class. You forget the source, so misery start. Okay, and what is the source? What is the source is Krishna. And why do we forget Krishna? Why would you forget the source if we are looking at an object? Illusion. And what is the illusion? We want to dominate or control it. Exactly. And Hemlata Mataji tells us on Facebook that if you contemplate on the objects of the senses, then you get attached to them. Dhayato Vishayan Punsan. You get attached to that. And then what happens after you get attached to them? Vidyavadu Devi Dasi Dandal Pranam. You get entangled. Okay. There was something very specific that we read in those verses, that if you contemplate on the objects of the senses, then what happens by contemplating on the objects of the senses? Dhyayato Vishayan Punsan, right? There was a whole, steps that we had listed out as to what happens when you contemplate on the objects of the senses. There's something that happens. You get attached, you desire, and what do you desire? All right, so Tapa Mataji, anger arises, says Garima. Okay, that's right. And then what happens when anger arises? You are going there slowly but surely. We are all reaching where the verse is guiding us. Okay. There was something very specific that we talked about. There were two verses. We took one verse every day, and we covered that in 2 days. Dhyayato Vishayan Punsan Sango Sangasteshu Pajayate. So, as you said, you develop an attachment for them. And after you develop an attachment for them, then lust develops. And some of you mentioned that. And then because you have a desire to possess it and enjoy it, and if you are not able to possess it or enjoy it, then anger arises. And then when anger arises, what were the steps that were listed? When anger arises, what happens? You are bewildered. You have no idea what you're doing. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. Right? So you get bewildered. All right. And then after you are bewildered, sammohat smriti vibramsham. So then after you become bewildered, then your memory is lost, is confused, is bewildered. Vibhrama, Brahm. Yes. And after that, the memory is lost. Very good. Now you're working as a team. Memory is lost, and then you lose, and it is LOSE, lose, and not LOOSE, lose. There's a difference between lose and lose. Okay, so we lose our intelligence, and then once the intelligence is lost, what happens? When a person loses his intelligence, what happens? He falls down into the material world. Correct. Yeah. So that was a sequence of steps that were listed out in the 2 verses of Bhagavad Gita. And then after that, we also had one more verse, and we say Raga Dvesha Vimuktestu Vishayan Indriyas Charan Atma Vasher Vidhe Atma Prasadam Adhigachati. So we are saying Raga and Dvesha. Raga and Dvesha is okay, and raga and dvesha means raga means attachment and dvesha is detachment. And so raga and dvesha, we keep on going through these cycles over and over and over again, all the time in our lives. And sometimes we like something very much, and after some time we start hating the same thing again, right? So this, back and forth happens. You can see that very prominently among the kids. Okay. So, yes, after you fall down, then you will forget Krishna. So, he's saying that if you are not in this situation of having an attachment, raga or dvesha, detachment, right? So, if you are free from all those things, right? Attachment and aversion, because you're trying to avert something, then also you're thinking about it, right? Attachment, you're always thinking about that thing, right? So if you are in that, when you're free from this attachment and aversion, right, then only are you able to free your senses. Other than that, no, you'll still be always be under the control as long as you're attached to this or that, because then the mind will start thinking, and the rest of the senses work in complete teamwork with the mind. And so before we know, we are completely gone in the opposite direction. So when you are able to be free from all attachment and aversion, and you are able to control your senses, then we had used a very nice term last time, and we said that you get the regulative principles of freedom. So this verse is asking you to do a lot of things, right? First is you need to follow regulations. And of course, we know the 4 regulative principles that we follow, the don'ts. And then, as part of the regulation, there are also some do's, and which is you should read at least a chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day, you should read the scriptures, you should chant, and so on and so forth, right? So there are do's and don'ts that are always that are mentioned there. So where is the freedom between all this that I have to do? There's so much of control on me. You cannot do this and you have to do this. So where is my free will? But here Krishna uses the word that, regulative principles of freedom, because these are the things that will lead to ultimate freedom for you. Otherwise, we are kama dhinam kathina katitha palita durnideshas desham jata maina karuna na tripano peshanti. If you are not following the regulative principles and you let your senses dictate you, then they are such cruel masters that they will just suck the life breath out of you and they'll make you do whatever. And so these restrictions actually ultimately lead to our freedom, right? And then by following these regulative principles, the verse says that you can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Okay, So if you have to look at this verse in Bhagavad Gita, what do you have to do? And take out your notepads. What do you have to do to obtain the complete mercy of the Lord? Answers, waiting for the answers, can come on Facebook also. What do you have to do to get the complete mercy of the Lord? You can put in half sentences, that's fine. Anything that you heard from this monologue that stuck your mind and tells you about what can I do to obtain complete mercy of the Lord. Sadhana Mataji says, follow the four legislative principles. Right, very good. And of course, in that process, you will get to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, very good. So then here, let me start sharing the screen and take up today's verse. So today's verse is 65. And let's see. This verse is the favorite of many people. And as we are going through this verse, I would like you to think about it, that why do you think this verse is a favorite of many people? Okay, so I'm going to share this with everybody. And let's take this here together. Please put a yes to let me know that you're able to see Bhagavad Gita 6.25. I'm waiting and looking for a yes, and I got 2 yeses, so that's a good enough number for me to go ahead. So what this particular verse says is, and quite a few of you must be familiar also with this, it says, Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhihi paryavatishthate. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhihi paryavatishthate. All right, so does anybody recall from where is this verse? Other than that it is from Bhagavad Gita 2.65. Where other places have you heard this verse being recited? Anybody remember? Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyasu buddhi paryavatishtate. Prasadam prayers, right? We pray while we not while you're offering bhoga. Bhoga is bhoga, prasadam is prasadam. Remember the distinction between the two. Okay? So you will say this before you honor prasadam, before you start honoring or eating it. That's when you say prasade sarva dukkhanam. Yes, prasadam prayers is trending today, and that's where we do it, right? So prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyo pajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishtate. And what happens? So let's see. Synonyms are there, and it says prasade, which means on the achievement. And on achievement of what? On achievement of the causeless mercy of the Lord. That's prasade. Prasad is the causeless mercy of the Lord, and prasade means that you got it. Sarva means all. Dukkhana means material miseries. Hanihi means to destroy. Asya means his. Upajayate means takes place. Prasanna chetasaha. Prasanna chetasaha means of the happy minded. He certainly, Ashu is very soon or quickly, fast. Buddhihi, intelligence. And then pari, sufficiently. Avatishthate is becomes established or positioned, right? Tishtha means to sit. So memory is sitting at some level like that. Okay. So let's look at these words and get familiar. So hani means destruction. Prasade means to achieve the causeless mercy of the Lord. Prasad means causeless mercy of the Lord. Prasade means on achievement of the causeless mercy of the Lord. Sarva means all. Prasade sarva dukkhana. Dukkhana means material miseries. Hani means destruction. Upujayate means takes place. Prasanna te chetasaha of the happy minded. Ashu means very soon. Buddhi, we know, is intelligence. Pari means sufficiently, sufficiently. And avatishtate is becomes established. So, what is the Sanskrit for very soon? Can you take your notepads and tell me? What is the Sanskrit for very soon? Very soon. All right, you all got it right. Ashu means very soon. Okay. What is the meaning of prasad? What is prasad? The causeless mercy of the Lord, right? Prasad is causeless mercy. Very nice. What is the meaning of sufficiently in Sanskrit? Pari. Very nice. Pari. Sufficiently means pari, pari, right? Okay. And what is the Sanskrit for destroy or destruction or destruction? Destruction. What's the Sanskrit for that? Hanir, yes, hanihi, hani, right? Destroy. And what is the Sanskrit for intelligence? Yes, buddhi. And what is the Sanskrit for being established? Something became established. Avishishtate. Vatishtate. Avatishtate means past tense, you add a to it, right? Avatishtate. Okay. Now let us see what does the purport tell us. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, is saying, for one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon established. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namastute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्तविंदा Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So we had a very short um, purport from Srila Prabhupada. So we need all his mercy to be able to expand it. Hence the need of prayers. So it says, for one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. Such satisfied consciousness, in such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Now, I want to spend a little time over this, the verse itself, right? So, of course, it's a Sanskrit shloka written in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit poetry is supposed to be the most beautiful poetry in the world, and Sanskrit language is supposed to be the richest language in the world. And this is Bhagavad Gita, right? So it's a song of the Lord. So whenever there is a song, there will be rhyme and rhythm and meters and things like that. Right? So in this particular, and there are different styles of writing Sanskrit word poetry. And in this one, you see that in the first and the third line, right? In the first and the third line, the word starts with pra, right? Prasade and prasanna. So that is a style of writing. Similarly, the second and the fourth line, they end in ate, asyopajayate, and then buddhi paryavatishtate. So that's, that's a particular way in which poetry is written. And Sanskrit poetries can be pretty elaborate, in the sense that one can, there's so many rules, and so when you read those rules, or when you encounter a particular verse, and somebody explains that to you, that okay, this is the rule, and then we understand that how difficult it is, to even write Sanskrit poetry. It's not an easy thing. It's not writing modern poetry which doesn't rhyme at all, and like, or some light poetry where the rhymes are there. The last words of each sentence are going to rhyme with each other, and we call that as poetry. It's not like that. But there are even the words in the various the letters in the various sentences and specific positions in the sentence, all those things are following a particular rule and regulation. So we have to keep that in mind. So when people write Sanskrit poetry, and then there are you know length and meters, Anashtob, Gayatri, Pankti. There's so many rules and methods and prescriptions there for writing Sanskrit poetry, and that sometimes you have to write and then scratch it and then write again and put a word doesn't fit because it doesn't follow the meter and all that. So it's a difficult thing. And but then there are people who can spontaneously produce 100 verses, as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya spontaneously spoke many verses in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then, while we have these fantastic people who compose the poetry and spout it out so easily, we also have people who can hear it also, with the same gusto with which it was being spoken, and which means they are known as Shrutidhar. And that is, they will hear it and then they remember the whole thing. So you recite 100 verses, you on spontaneously, and then they will recite it back to you. So people are so concentrating in their hearing process like that. So take out your notepads and give me the example of a Shrutidhar. Shrutidhar is one who hears something and remembers it. Shrutidhar from our scriptures. One Shrutidhar, and that Shrutidhar. And so I got a couple of names over there. And now you have to justify your choices, your responses. So why do you, so if Shukadev Goswami is a Shrutidhar, then from whom did he hear? From whom did he hear? And what did he hear? Sukhdev Goswami heard from Vyasdeva, correct? And what did he hear? Yes, and he heard the Bhagavatam. Yes, he heard the Bhagavatam. Precise answer is that Sukhdev Goswami heard the Bhagavatam from his father. Okay, any other Shrutidhars that you know? Or you have mentioned Ganesh. So why do you say Ganesh is a Shrutidhar? What was it that he heard and recited later on? Is there something that you heard and then he recited? Anything? Okay. And so to whom did he recite it? To whom did he recite the Mahabharata? Hmm? Did he recite it to somebody? What was Ganesha doing with the Mahabharata? Actually, he didn't recite, but he heard from Vyasdeva. Right, he did not recite. If he did not recite, then what was he doing? You're close, but almost there. He was writing it. Yes, he was documenting it. So he was just reading, he was listening and he was writing. Shrutidhar is not that. That is a scribe. Shrutidhar is one who will listen to the thing and then he'll be able to recite it much later, right? And so Sukhdev Goswami is one. Another one is, so Ganesha is ruled out. Another Shrutidhar that we know from Bhagavatam. One more. And what did Prahlad Maharaj hear? Yeah, so Prahlad Maharaj heard about Krishna from Narada. And where was Prahlad Maharaj when he was hearing this from Krishna, from Narad Muni? He was in the womb of his mother, right? Okay, now he also said Vyasdeva is a Shrutidhar. So let's see, what did Vyasdeva hear? What did Vyasdeva hear? Because I think you had somewhere earlier we said, right? Vyasdeva is a Shrutidhar. What is Vyasdeva here? Vyasdeva heard from Narada? Okay, and what did he hear? What did Vyasdeva hear from Narad Muni? Anybody remember? Yeah, we are not talking about if somebody hears somebody's instructions and following them, we don't call them the Shrutidhars, right? We are talking about Shrutidhars who will listen to poetry and then be able to recite it back again. Hmm? What did Vyasdeva hear? He heard glories of the Lord, pastimes of the Lord. He heard all that, and then he wrote the Bhagavatam. All right, let's go back and do a quick recap here, bringing up desktop number 2 for you. And this is going back to the first canto, and this is chapter number 6, where it is the conversation between Narad and Vyasdev. And the conversation between Narad and Vyasdev was that Vyasdev was Narad Muni narrated his previous life, how he was the son of a maid servant, and he just narrates his previous life. And that didn't become, neither Mahabharat or Bhagavatam. So Narad Muni did not do that. Narad Muni just gave him instructions. And then in the very beginning of the 7th chapter, which we recently concluded a few months ago, is when after his spiritual master Vyasdev leaves, then what he does, he's on the western bank of the river Saraswati, he sat in the cottage for meditation at Samyaprash. So then Vyasdev sits down there and he meditates. And in that, what happens is that he fixed his mind by engaging in devotional service bhakti yoga. And there he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. So he sees that in his heart. And from there, he gets the inspiration to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's not a Shrutidhar. It's not that somebody spoke to him and he wrote it, right? So hearing from others, the example that you gave was Shukadev Goswami, Prahlad Maharaj, they are right. And then also we missed on Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami was sitting there in the assembly, right? In the assembly of Sukhdev Goswami, and he heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And a couple of hundred years later, he narrates the entire Srimad Bhagavatam again to the sages in Naimisharanya. So those are examples of people who are Shrutidhar. So Sanskrit language, writing it, constructing the poetry is beautiful. And then there are people equally talented who are able to hear it and recite it also there. Okay? So that was a short segue from the topic that we are discussing, and that is chapter 2, verse number 65. So I had asked you in the beginning that this verse is very favorite of many people, and now have you guessed why it is a favorite of many people? Why do you think it is? It has one word in it that people like. Prasad. There you go. Right? So when we talk about prasad, we are always talking about food, right? Because that's the only prasad that we kind of grew up and which was pointed out to us that this is prasad, right? But here we actually understood today that prasad is actually the mercy of the Lord. It's the causeless mercy of the Lord. So prasad can come to you in many different forms. It need not just come to you in the form of food. Mercy can come in so many ways, right? Mercy of the Lord can sometimes also come in the form of terrible, terrible miseries. Terrible, terrible miseries. That also sometimes is actually a prasad. It's actually a mercy of the Lord, right? Okay, so let's go a little bit more deeper into this particular word. So we have analyzed this verse. There's a lot of beauty in it. We analyzed it's beautiful from the shastric from the poetry perspective, from the literary perspective. That's constructed very nicely, and of course it's beautiful um, because it has the um, word prasad in it. And sorry, I got deviated because there's a question there. Simi Mataji is asking that who did Prahlad Maharaj recite? So whatever Prahlad Maharaj heard from Narad Muni, to whom did he recite? That's the question. And anybody has the answer to that? To whom did he tell? Why do we call him Ashtadhar? To whom did he tell? To whom was he preaching? To the students at his school. Fantastic. Yes, to his classmates, says Vashana Mataji and Sadhana Mataji, and that's right, right? So that's where he repeated all that he had done that. Okay. So let's go back to, and of course, later on, he says that to his father also, and father did not like it. So, one thing that keeps in mind that Aruni Mataji, I don't know which word are you asking? Shrutidhar. Okay. Shrutidhar. Shrutidhar or Karnadhar. Okay. Shrutidhar or Karnadhar. Now, here in this verse, it's in this verse that we are doing today, said prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasyopajayate prasanna cheta suhiyashu buddhi pariyavatistate. So first thing it says is that, when a person is thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness. And so how is a person thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness? Where is the word thus coming from? It's coming from the previous verses where we said, hey, if you focus your energy and your attention, dhayato vishayam punsan, if you focus your energy in that, you're going to fall down, right? And we tell you the steps through which you tumble down very quickly. And then we also said that if you follow the regulative principles of freedom, then you get the mercy of the Lord very quickly. So once you do that, right, when you raise your consciousness to a higher level, you are established in Krishna consciousness. And here he is saying, for one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of the material world existence exist no longer, right? And so this is a very interesting thing. And, we have been talking about happiness and been giving lectures to the Modesto congregation. And I gave one yesterday, which was part 2 of the happiness mantras, where people are running after happiness in their lives and not getting it, or getting it, they think. So when you look around in your life, right, who do you think are happy? There are two types of people. They say they're very happy. Who are happy when you look around yourself? Any guesses when you look around? One who possesses wealth is happy. Those who are devotees are happy. Who else is happy? Don't constrain yourself to just the human beings. Look around. There are other creatures also. Those who serve, yeah. Okay, devotional service are happy. Who else is happy when you look around? One who are totally oblivious to any spiritual knowledge and who live to satisfy the senses are also happy. They're happy in their oblivion. Thank you, Mataji, for that answer. Birds are happy. Arani Mataji says, Garima says, kids are happy. Isn't it? Kids are happy. They have no care in the world. Like when we were small, we had no idea where the food is coming from. We didn't bother whether father is going to earn the salary that month or not, right? Nothing. If the playmates come around, then we play, we giggle, we eat, and we go to sleep, right? So kids are, either you're a very small child or you are completely fool and you are oblivious to what's happening in the world and you are happy like that, right? And then, of course, animals are happy. Look at the dog when the master returns home, right? When the master returns home, what happens? The dog is all over the place. The dogs go bonkers with happiness. They're so happy, they just don't know what to do, right? So, animals also have their sense of happiness, and it takes little to keep them happy. You give them a little bit of food, they're happy, right? They don't complain about the taste, the texture, they'll eat it, right? And then kids, you come to the human species, the kids are happy with small things, they're happy. But as we grow older, then the dissatisfaction comes into us, right? And then where is the happiness? Prahlad Maharaj says, Shruti Sukham. It's just in the words. You're just hearing there is happiness here and there. You don't get any kind of a happiness there, right? But this particular verse is giving you the formula, right? It's telling you how there is hope for all of us, how we can be happy. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajatate. The first is by the mercy of the Lord, you will first get relief from the three kinds of distress. Can somebody tell me what are the three types of distress that you have in this material world? Three types of distress. Adi bhautik, okay, adhyatmik, Adi-Devik. Yes, I was looking for those precise answers. Sanskrit words, Adi-Bhautik, Adi-Devik, and Adhyatmik. Okay, what is Adhyatmik, Klesh? What is Adhyatmik distress? What is that? Can you give me an example of Adhyatmik? Because this verse is saying that by the mercy of the Lord, those three distresses are going to go away. So what is that distress? What is Adhyatmik distress? When we say Adhyatmik distress, what does that mean? Related to body and the mind. So other where are the other distresses related to? So Adi Devik are related someplace else, and Adi Bhautik are related someplace else. Adhyatmik, the distress that you get because of your own doing. Whatever you are doing, because of that, you suffer the consequences. That is known as adhyatmik, self-inflicted miseries. Now, can you give me an example of a self-inflicted misery that can happen because as a consequence of our actions? Yeah, I'm looking for something more precise. Give me an example of we do something and we suffer the consequences and we are miserable. Any example from some your life or somebody else's life and you watch them doing something. Yeah, I'm looking for a precise thing that you do, Eat bad food and get stomach ache. That is the precise answer, right? You are responsible for that. You ate the bad food and now your stomach is hurting. So that is an example of adhyatmic, right? It can also happen through your mind. Your mind will start thinking. For example, your mind can become envious of somebody, and your envy leads to a lot of distress, right? Envy is a punishment to yourself, right? So these are examples, right? Now, adi bhautik. Adi bhautik is the distress that you get because of others, not because of yourself. The distress that you get because of others. Now let's take some examples of adi bhautik, because of others doing something to us. Somebody else does something and we suffer because of that. Somebody hurts us. Jealousy from someone is not adi bhautik. That other person is not doing anything to you. Jealousy is our own creation. It's adhyatmic. It is our mind who is doing it. It's our mind who is thinking those jealous thoughts, right? Okay. Somebody comes and criticizes us and hurts us. Yes, that is adi bhautik. And then very interesting. Earlier, I think Sadhana Mataji had said, had given an example, sadness from the death of a loved one, right? Now, sadness from the death of a loved one is actually a adi bhautik kalesh. It is it is sadness or distress inflicted on you by the person who died. The person who died, right? It's very difficult to understand that. But they died. If they had not died, then you would not be miserable. So they are the cause, right? The karan for that. And then the third type of misery that you get. Okay, so these are pretty confined miseries, in the sense that you do something and then you hurt yourself, right? Eat too much of ice cream, 40 years later you have a heart attack. It's adhyatmic, you did it, right? Adi bhautik, others are doing. Mosquito comes and bites you, dog comes and bites you, and then of course all these that you listed, they all adhyatmic, adi bhautik. Now, the third kind of kalesh or distress is when a big mass of people have to be punished together. So, all these kaleshas are punishment from our previous sins. So, when somebody had mentioned in the beginning that all these kaleshas are due to our own karma, that's the underlying answer, and the common answer is that, right? So, because of the sins that we commit, we go through this distress. Now, sometimes a mass of people could be at a level where they all have to receive some punishment. And that's when the demigods are going to come into picture and they're going to punish. And so, can you give me some examples of how we get punishment from the demigods? Heavy rain, COVID, yes, mass disease, pandemics, exactly, earthquakes, floods, fire, right? All these things happen. So it's very, very amazing thing as to how these Adi Devik Kaleshas come into a picture. And it's like a mass of people who are indulging in something that they're not supposed to indulge in. And when the right time comes, the houses will get burned down, right? Or there'll be tsunami and they'll get washed away. So these are okay. Aruni Mataji says, I don't understand why someone's jealousy would be adhyatmic. Oh, okay. So I understood your comment differently. So when I was saying that jealousy is not adi bhautik, I meant that jealousy that I am feeling, the jealousy that I am feeling in my heart, it is coming from my mind. It is my mind who's creating that jealousy. The other person could just be oblivious to all that, right? We find somebody very better, that person is not doing anything. For all that, that person might love you very dearly, but we are jealous from inside our mind. Sometimes it happens between couples, you know One partner could be very jealous of the other one, and the other one is oblivious and not inflicting, not doing anything. So, from that part, I'm saying that it is adhyatmic. However, if somebody is jealous of you, and because of that jealousy, that person does something to you, then yes, definitely it is adibhatik. It is coming from somebody else, like that. Okay. So, yeah, you meant someone feeling jealous of you, and not just feeling. If they are feeling jealous of you, then it's their problem. But because of that jealousy, if they come and do something to you, then of course it is adi bhatik towards you. Somebody else has done that. Okay? So there are three. Yeah, but they are the ones sending the negative energy. You see? Always look at the root cause. So where the negative energy came to me, from where did the negative energy came? There, you are the cause, efficient cause, like that. Okay. So what this verse is saying is prasade sarva dukkhanam hane rasyopajayate. So he says that when you get this prasad, when you get this mercy of the Lord, then all these three kaleshas, hanir, they are completely gone. They are eradicated from you, right? And this is the beauty of devotional service to the Lord. Right? And prasanna chetasya huyasu, right? So then what happens is prasanna, you are satisfied. And in that satisfied consciousness, the intelligence is soon well established. So this is a very interesting thing. There was a word which was used, avatishthate, established, or I was saying situated. Where are you established? I'm established in my home. I'm established, like when they put the deities, establish the deity in the temple. So where are they situated? So your intelligence, becomes situated, right? So it is saying that what does it mean to say that my intelligence is well situated, right? This is saying that when you get the special mercy of the Lord, your intelligence is going to be well situated. Now, in the previous verses, we read that dhyate vishyam pumsa, if you are concentrating on objects of sensual gratification, then soon what happens is that your intelligence is bewildered and then you fall down. So that means at that position, in that situation, the intelligence was not in the right situation, was not established properly, did not know what to do. So here they're saying that due to the mercy of the Lord, the intelligence is nicely situated, properly situated, right? So what does a properly situated intelligence do? How does a person with a properly situated intelligence behave? Kim Vrajeta, Asita Kim. That's what he was asking. Arjuna was asking that question. How is that person? How does he talk? How does he walk? How does he make the decisions, right? Because between a stimulus, right? Something from outside stimulates us. And then for the stimulus, there will be a response. So for every stimulus that comes, there will be a response. Between the stimulus and the response that you give, you have the freedom to choose. Between the stimulus and the response, you have the freedom to choose. What kind of a response are you going to give? Right? Somebody says something like, you are a fool, and we immediately, without any even knowing us, we come turn around and say, you are a bigger fool, right? Kids do that all the time, right? You are stupid, no, you are stupid, no, you are stupid, no, you are stupid, you are stupid 100 times, you are stupid 1,000 times. They do, like, they go on like that, and then they will start laughing because they're kids. But adults don't do that after an exchange like this, right? We keep it in our hearts. So intelligence, right? So buddhi paryavatishtate, right? So what is happening to this particular intelligence, right? That it is established and sufficiently, nicely established. So now we have to understand where the intelligence should be established, okay? And what we do, we are intelligent people. We have got intellect, right? We are intelligent people and we know how to read the Shastras. Okay, we read, we come sit in the classes morning till evening. We read, we give Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, all those kinds of things, information, right? But what does it mean to say that, all right, this person's intelligence is nicely established? So the thing is that you read the Shastras. Now, to read the Shastras, to hear the Shastras, you need intelligence, which the dogs and the cats don't have. And human body has got that intelligence. And that's why we sit and we are able to have got hands like this, which can hold a book, and we read a book and we read it. Now, there are two ways, two things that you can do. You can sit in a class and understand it, spout everything that you learned, and shlokas here and there. And you have a sloka for every occasion, for every aspect, for every angle. Everything is memorized in the head, right? But when it comes to stimulus and the response, all the Shastras disappear. The Shastra says, Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam, jivya vegam udarapastha vegam, etan vegan yo vishaheta dhira sarvam apimam. Right? So, prithvim sasishyat. So, a real assimilation of the Shastra would be that when somebody provokes you, how are you responding? That means that not only have I read the Shastras and understood that with my intelligence, the real intelligence is when you start applying those Shastras in your life, when you assimilate the Shastras in your life. That is the real intelligence and the real level at which your intelligence has reached. Otherwise, people can just, read the Sanskrit. It's a language, but there is more to the Shastra than just the language, right? And that's why they say when you read translations, you should read the translations which are done by a pure devotee of the Lord, because they will bring in transcendental vibrations into the translations and the purport, like that over there. Okay. Now, one would like to ask that when I assimilate the Shastras, and that will answer your question, Archana Mataji, in my life, what does it mean? Well, Krishna says, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Are you doing that? Are you bowing down? And when you are bowing down before Krishna, is it just the body that is bowing down? Is the soul also inside bowing down and accepting Krishna as the supreme? Right? So intelligence should always be, when we make Krishna the center of our life, that is the right use of intelligence. When you do everything for Krishna, yat karoshi, yat ashnashi, yat jihoshi, dadasi, yat tapasyasvi konteya, tat kurushva mad arpanam. So he said, do everything for me. Are you really doing things for Krishna? That is known as real establishment of the intelligence. Now somebody might ask this question that, wow, that's real intelligence. I didn't even know. I thought intelligence meant that you could do calculus and trigonometry and rocket science and all that stuff. I thought that was intelligence. Now you're saying that sitting down and chanting and offering bhoga, that is the real intelligence. So I don't get it. And how will I get it? That is the question. So how will I get it? That's a very interesting thing. And this is good news for all of us. So in the young, when we were small, and during my time, I'm old, people used to, parents were very critical of their kids. And nowadays it's like, no, he'll have a psychological imbalance and so on and so forth. So whatever, that's a separate topic. But they would be pretty brutal about, ye to gada hai, if the child is not intelligent, gada means like ass, they would use such language with the kids. And which means like, intelligence is zero. And okay, now Ramu is, Gadha, and Shamu is intelligent, right? So like that. So it's a zero and it's a one. But it's not like that. Our intelligence can be sharpened with time, right? And with practice. not necessarily time, but with practice, it can be sharpened. So you can be at this level of intelligence and somebody just starts giving you prasadam to eat. It's mercy of the Lord. It'll start to purify you. So the prasadam that you eat is also a mercy of the Lord in one form, right? And then it'll start to purify your intelligence. And so your intelligence will grow a little bit, right? And then when you read, then you understand the scriptures much better, and then you assimilate the scriptures. Now you might not be able to assimilate all of it, right? Fine. Even if you assimilate this much of the scriptures in your life, your intelligence will be sharpened even more and will start taking the right decisions, which means assimilating it even more. So this way, your intelligence will, grow like that in leaps and bounds, leaps and bounds. And of course, Krishna as the super soul is also going to guide you in that. So this is how your buddhi paryavatishtate, that your buddhi, starts from some level, but then it grows and then it gets established in Krishna, it gets connecting there. Okay. So we are past the top of the hour. So we'll stop here. And I have to leave. So I'll just take one reflection. So whoever is the fastest on the thumb on raising their hands, I'll be able to take just one reflection. So I'm sorry about that, but I have meetings to go to. But this is the best meeting of the day. I have to tell you that. So let's see. How do I unmute you all? Participants. Where are the participants here? Okay. All right. So I will allow you to unmute yourself. Okay. And I think Shruti Priya Devi Dasi Mataji raised her hand and we'll take her reflection. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice session. And it is going to help me in something I'm going through at this time. And was very relevant when you talked about Adi Bhautik, the miseries that is brought up with by others. So in those situations, how do you take care or take care of yourself, knowing that they're inflicting mental miseries? I mean, not direct physically, but indirectly.
Yeah. Mental miseries are the easiest to handle. Physical injuries and physical attacks are difficult because then you will lose your human body, right? For mental misery, you just have to raise yourself to a higher level and look at it from a 30,000 feet view and see what is happening. One jiva soul is in one body and behaving nastily to another jiva soul. And why is that happening? Because of the karmic reactions of the second jiva soul. That jiva soul already has done that in the previous birth. And a devotee goes 10 steps further and says, Tatte nukampam sushami kshamano bhunjana mevatma sukram. A woman who is, not treated properly by her husband, uses abusive language on her, might feel very hurt, or ignores her, might feel very hurt. And Vaisheshika Prabhu says that when somebody insults you, or they ignore you, or they misunderstand you, which are things that happen between, in families, between friends, in relationships, these things always happen all the time. And he says, if you learn how to tolerate this, if you learn how to tolerate you, then your chit rakta grows. Chit rakta is the spiritual blood, and that's what we want. That is what we really want to grow. So tolerate, tolerate, tolerate. And Shruti Priya Mataji, I have given 2 lectures to Modesto on happiness, and the first mantra for happiness is to learn how to tolerate that. It's very difficult to do, but once you learn how to tolerate, and I had mentioned that, you have the freedom because you learn how to tolerate. Now that other person cannot do anything to you, they cannot move you because you have learned how to tolerate. Okay, you want to say something, say it. You want to say something about my mom, bring it on. You want to say something about my brother, I don't care, right? Because you are the one who's saying it. So I'll finish this off with a story, and which we always should keep in mind when people are behaving nastily with us. And that is, if you are chanting, then you have a protective covering around you that negative vibrations will not be able to come towards you. You can strengthening that, you know, kavach around you by chanting and increasing and bumping up the quality of your chanting. Then others won't be able to do anything to you. That's the biggest shelter that you can have, right?
Okay.
And
Thank you so
yeah, and it's just a control of mind. Tattenu kampam susasmikshamaro. If my husband hurts me and says something bad, my mother-in-law hurts me, or somebody hurts me, right? That's one option. Husband can also beat. Now you can compare which one is more difficult to tolerate, right? So, and it's easy to control, to tolerate these mental inflictions, and you can just get away with it. But if somebody, beats and batters somebody else, then it's very difficult. So that's what we do. And so the story I wanted to stop here with is, there was a there were some mendicants, since they had a guru, and these young mendicants were asked to go and beg for alms. And the reason you are asked to beg for alms is that it teaches you humility. Because when people say no, you have to learn how to tolerate and not give it back to them. That's humility. So they used to go there, and then one particular householder was very obnoxious. His behavior was just intolerable. He would come out and he would use abusive language on these bhikshus, and so they used to, kind of avoid and go to other houses to beg. Now, one day the spiritual master said, "Okay, let's all go together." So they went into that lane and they were going from one house to another house to another house, and then they came to this bad house. And so the disciple said, "Guruji, let's leave this one. Let's go to the next house." Then Guru said, "Why?" He said, "No, no, he's a very abusive person." That doesn't matter. Um, let's go there. So they went there, and the abusive person came out, and then he said, "Oh, so today two of you have come, huh? So you have brought your friends along, and then again, like, you're useless people, you don't work, and you just want to have things for free. And what do you think this is? And under the guise of God, being a God man, you're just, collecting money, all that nonsense." He started saying that. And the spiritual master just stood there unfazed, apparently tolerating, but, he didn't, nothing was happening to him. And after some time, this man, the one who was abusing, he fell down with a heart attack. And then, of course, this spiritual master, fell on him and gave him artificial respiration and all that, till the rest of the villagers came and then brought the doctor, took him to the hospital, or whatever was required to do, they do. And then this man came to his senses, and then he was very apologetic that, the same person to whom he was using abusive language actually saved his life. Anyway, so this spiritual master and the disciple then moved on. And so, and on the way, the disciple just asked him that, "Guru, what happened? Why did that man, after he was, giving you so many curses and things like that, why did he fall?" And, as if he got affected by his own curses. Why did that happen? So then, the spiritual master said, "All right, tell me, when you were in the previous house and you begged for alms, what did they give you?" So he said, "Well, they gave me an apple." So he said, "Where's the apple?" "It's in my bag." "Okay, take out the apple, give it to me." So he takes out the apple and he tries to give it to his spiritual master. The spiritual master does not take it. He refuses to take it. And then he asks the disciple, "Where is the apple?" He said, "It's in my hand." So he said the same thing. When that person was using abusive language, I was not taking it. Where did it remain? With him. And it affected him like that. So, similarly, if you have any obnoxious people around you in the home, just don't let them affect you. It'll stay with them like that. Okay. So on that note, I'll take your leave here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha gorpe manande hari hari
I
bo.
took my second shot today.
Hey, very good. Here's to